Welcome back to the Illuminated Path. This is episode 43. What are we talking about today?
We are talking about confidence, and if you're not watching us on video, you might hear birds, wind, bugs, whatever else, because we actually are recording outside in our porch. It's 91 degrees outside, so it's pretty warm, but we wanted to change the scenery, so.
I'm sitting on ice packs and I got a towel in case I need to wipe my sweat. So there's that, but we love our porch. This is where we spend our summers usually.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
hearing the birds just behind us and everything, though, just sounds so lovely.
yeah, I've written a lot of music out here. We've spent a lot of nights out here.
Yeah.
So you'll probably hear some birds chirping. Hopefully that's the only sounds that jump in. How's the week?
The week is good. We just got our red light therapy lamp. And you've always wanted one. I've been interested in one. I actually discovered that it would be good for our dog who gets a little bit slow, might get some sore joints after a long day or after a long walk. So I was like, oh, we need this for him now.
So when the dog needed it,
and
we
so
got it.
now we have it for ourselves. But I've been using it on my skin, and my skin is the clearest it has been in a very long time, which I have talked about on this show. And the combination of the red light therapy and working with my naturopath and working on my cortisol levels and stress and everything in my gut, like it's all helped, and it feels really good to finally see all of that work and everything that I've been doing and seeing it show on my skin.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that you've been on a long journey and it's cool. We'll definitely have to do like a update episode of like how it's going with the red light.
Yeah. How about you?
Um yeah, lots. I'm losing some weight. I'm getting more consistent, especially in my diet. Um Getting a lot of answers in my health journey with my lung and working with my doctor and my GI stuff. So they're going well. My beard's
Yeah, I was gonna say.
going strong.
I don't know that you talked about that yet
I
because
did. I shared it
oh
last time we filmed. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I got like a full kit for my beard. I got the conditioner and the balm and the butter and the oil. And it's funny because I said to you, like when you decide you're not going to have a beard, you honor that by just shaving. And it's like you shave and you're done. And having a beard, there's like a lot I have to do to honor that decision.
mm.
But it's going well. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying having a beard, and I'm excited for it to just get longer and longer.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it.
Yeah.
So confidence. I just want to define it first.
Okay.
So confidence is just the beliefs in our abilities to succeed in a specific situation or to accomplish a specific task. And it's really about having like that trust in your skill and trust in your judgment.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of people talking about struggling with confidence, and it's something I've struggled with a ton. So
I feel like this has been a big topic for both you and I.
yeah.
But well, I'll get into that. But go ahead.
Yeah, so confidence it really is, when you think about it, it's a feeling. And it's a similar thing to motivation, where it's a feeling that comes from your thoughts. So your thoughts about that certain situation or circumstance, and your belief in yourself, your belief in your abilities. And depending on what those thoughts are, it's going to translate into feeling confidence or feeling lack of confidence.
Yeah. I think so much of confidence has to do with authenticity and, living your truth. I think a lot of times we get caught in that spiral of, I'm afraid of this, I'm worried about that. And you find yourself not leading with confidence because you don't trust or believe or feel right about what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's goes back to like the definition of like the feeling and belief in yourself in terms of certain abilities. Like, of course, there might be things that you are more confident in, right? Like, I'm confident as a driver. It's natural. Like, you drive a car, like, you just have confidence in that because it's something you've practiced for so long. But you won't have confidence in something that's like brand new that you're trying, or something that you're still putting a lot of work and effort into because you haven't gotten there yet to the point of it feels really natural. But that's kind of the importance of number 1, working on your thoughts and being aware of what your thoughts are about that because that creates the feeling. And number 2, like your confidence isn't going to come until you are actually taking action.
Yeah.
Just like motivation, you can't just rely on it to be there.
I think that's a really important point. I'm a big fan of the 10,000 hour rule, right? You've got to, in order to, theoretically, quote unquote, master something, you need to spend 10,000 hours doing it. And I think it's not really so much about the 10,000 hours as it's about really spending that time practicing. And I think you made a great point, which is that you don't just have confidence out the gate when you do something. When you started learning how to drive a car, you didn't have confidence.
Right.
You know, over the years, you do it more, you get your license, you pass the test, drive under pressure around cops and, whatever stressors there might be in traffic and things like that. And you build that confidence
Yeah.
as it comes up. And
Right.
that's, something I've been going through with my trading journey is learning how to implement a strategy and being in a place where I know I implemented it well so that once I enter that trade, I'm not flooded with second guesses.
Yeah. And you mentioned like the fear and when you are making a decision out of fear or when you're in like a stressed out state or not regulated, it's really hard to access the confidence because
Yeah.
the thoughts are not about I feel good about doing this or I feel confident in it. You're just focusing on thoughts of scarcity or lack or just fear or nervousness. So it's kind of impossible to be in the 2 at the same time, confidence and, like, stressed and scared.
Well, it's also frequencies, You're in a very low limiting frequency. You're not I mean, just think about kind of that, right? Like if we're in a low frequency, we can't access those higher frequencies. We can't be confident. We can't experience pride, right? Or joy or whatever it is if you're in fear, lack, scarcity, or you're unsure, you're not really truly living your truth or living or approaching things from a place of gratitude and love.
Yeah, and, I mentioned my skin earlier, and that's something that I've struggled with a lot in terms of confidence because my skin was my outward appearance, and when it was a mess, I didn't have confidence, but, in terms of, like, showing up for myself, online, for my business, like, my skin didn't start to get better until I started actively taking action, yeah, in, like, my own self-care and tending to my, symptoms, but there's also the level of, like you said, like, the energy that I'm in, the nervous system state that I'm in, the showing up and not being in fear, and then, the changes in my skin kinda followed, and it's interesting that's kinda like just an outward
Mm.
appearance, almost, like, example of that happening in real time.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about your brain doesn't know the difference. You've kind of got to get there mentally first, and then in your physical reality, take actions that follow suit.
Yeah. And so another thing that um, a lot of people struggle with confidence is that constant comparison to other
Mm,
people. And social media is a big piece of that. The constant comparison and seeing people that show up online that look super confident
yeah,
and thinking, "Ooh, I don't look like that. I'm not that confident. Like that's not how I outwardly appear."
yeah.
So you start to compare yourself and you think, "Well, I can't look that confident, so I don't have confidence." Period.
Right. And I think that's a really slippery slope because the thing with confidence is it's different for everyone. I think that we kind of lose sight of the fact that it is fine for some people to get on social media, be super confident. Whereas we've known lots of business owners, we've gone through it ourselves, we've had a rocky relationship with social media where it's a lot more of a process. It's a lot more of a self development, self mastery journey to show up there and be vulnerable in that sense. Whereas I think, you also have to consider the content. You do a lot for personal development and holistic health. And that's not always like what people want to see on social media. They want entertainment,
Yeah.
So everybody kind of has to find their own way in it and their way of doing it. I know when we've consulted business owners on social media, it's been find what you can be consistent with that feels good, that you're in a vulnerable place and you're showing up, but you're not sacrificing your joy to show up here.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you were saying, like the authentic part, like being authentic. And when you're sharing things that feel good, that is your true passion, or that is like really you.
Yeah.
And when you're showing up that way on social media or just in real life, the confidence will be there because you have that trust and like belief in yourself.
You're at that higher frequency. You're confident. Others who see your content can see and feel that.
Hmm.
And you're more likely to attract people with that confidence.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
A lot of times too with the comparison, people we all think that everybody is like watching us and
Mm,
judging us. And yeah, going back to social media, there is a lot of judgment that happens there, but the majority of people are not like staring at you, are not judging you, are not um thinking so much about you. We think that everybody's looking at us and judging us, and then that lowers your confidence. People are just so concerned with themselves.
yeah.
They can't get out of their own way, never mind put attention into and energy into someone else.
What's the quote? In your 20s, you think everyone's worried about you. In your 30s, you learned everybody's worried about themselves. And in your 40s, no, I got it wrong.
I don't know. I don't
It
know that I've heard
long
this
story
quote, but
short, nobody cares about what you're doing.
yeah,
Like,
or
do
how
your
you
own
look
thing.
or
Nobody's People are judging themselves. They're not judging. I mean, sometimes people are judging other people, but frankly, those people are dealing with quite a bit. So it's really about understanding like you're on your own path and you build what you're building for you. Stop looking at other people, stop worrying about what other people are building or doing. Just live your truth.
yeah. Your confidence can definitely fluctuate. Like I said, you might be confident in one thing more than another, something you have more experience in or whatever, but it's not always going to necessarily be the same. You're not always going to be able to access that super high confidence level, and you're not always going to be stuck at that super low confidence level either if
Right.
you're like struggling with something.
Yeah. So let's kind of, I mean, let's get into taking action then, right? Because it really, I think this is the biggest thing about confidence and something I think I'm sure you can speak to as well. Like anything I've ever done in music, in MMA, in building businesses, like we never had the confidence until we were able to take actions that had proved to ourselves we are doing this, we are capable of this, we are executing on this. So what is the role of actions and like actual progress toward what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, well, if you're relying on confidence and you feel like you don't have it, like that can really result in hesitation.
Yeah.
And then you're only further proving to yourself and proving to everyone else like that you're not doing it. You can't do it. You don't believe in yourself. So when you actually take action and you rely more on like the discipline piece and make a promise to yourself, I'm going to do this thing, and you take the action, then you can look back at yourself and feel confident about the fact that you did follow through, that you
Yeah.
did do it, that you accomplished the thing or at least took the step towards something. Maybe it wasn't perfect and maybe there's still more to learn, but that's again like the practice piece and continuing to do it, continuing to work towards those 10,000 hours in something or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That's how you start to actually build the confidence. You have to take the action first, like we were just talking about driving.
Yeah.
You were scared to drive at first, but after so many years of driving, it's just there because it's been something you've been doing and practicing.
Yeah. And I think there's a really good hidden gem in there, which is don't be afraid to be a beginner. You know,
Mm,
you've got to be willing to be new at something, to learn something new, and to you just try something
yeah.
and be willing to understand like not everything has to be like, oh, I look like a fool or I don't know what I'm doing. It's just I'm learning,
Hmm.
I'm getting the hang of it. I'm figuring it out. So keep more of an open mind and consider really trying new things and being a student again.
Yeah. And that goes back to like making and keeping promises to yourself and moving, doing something and then being like, "Yeah, I can do that." And now I do have a little bit more confidence this time, and next time it's gonna improve even more.
Yeah.
Part of that is I think like setting goals, like and something measurable, something attainable that you can, have a milestone where you're like, "Ooh, I reached that milestone. That's so
Mm.
exciting."
This
Because
is huge. This is huge because we have that goal alignment and time allocation workbook. And that I think is probably the most clear cut way to create goals where you have those milestones, you have things you're working toward, where you are achieving things and creating substantial, significant, quote unquote, tangible progress toward your goal. And you're developing that identity, and that's showing you, you know,
this
uh,
is who I am.
right. You're developing that confidence because you're seeing yourself move toward that identity.
Yeah, and it's celebrating yourself. It's being proud of yourself and recognizing the small little steps because you have to do that for yourself. Again, like
Yeah.
your confidence can't come from outside of you. It's your own thoughts and your own beliefs that creates the confidence. You can get compliments from 8 million people and still feel no confidence.
Right. And that's, the slippery slope of social media and the seven deadly sins, living in greed and envy and gluttony and looking at what everyone else is doing on social media because you're living in that, you're relying on that for your confidence, right? I need this materialistic thing.
Mhm.
It doesn't ever provide the confidence you think it does. It
Yeah.
has to come from within you. And that's where, like, in my music journey, right? I spent 5 years, I don't even know how long, trying to get to a place of understanding how to make music. And my confidence, music is an interesting place for me because I write much more confident than I am.
Mhm.
But that's become a place where I can have that confidence because I spent years feeling the progress that I was making. And to finally reach that point of putting out a song, I have the confidence of knowing, like, I have a working knowledge of how to create music, how to release it, how to do all that. And that confidence comes from doing the work and
Mhm.
showing up for it.
Yeah, and even, you saying, like, that your confidence comes out, like, did you mean, like, in your lyrics and stuff?
Yeah.
And that's, like, you practicing almost.
Oh, absolutely. That's me almost scripting the identity
Yeah,
of what I'm singing, what I'm putting out into the universe, and who I want to be as a musician.
right, and all of it is continuing to work on developing your skills and your knowledge, and yeah, that's everything in terms of building confidence, like, you have to do the thing in order
Yeah.
to start to feel the confidence.
So let's kind of shift gears into imposter syndrome
Okay,
because this is an important piece of this conversation. I think we'll also kind of clarify this is sort of a two-part conversation. The next episode will be on external validation, and that'll kind of overlap with the conversation of confidence.
definitely.
But imposter syndrome, I think, is really interesting. And I will say, like, we've been around a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners, and people love this freaking term. Like, it's, oh, I'm dealing with imposter syndrome. You and I mean, we've dealt with it, but I think we've been able to see it for what it is and work through it and get through it. So what is the role of imposter syndrome in terms of taking action, right? And how we develop confidence.
Imposter syndrome is like it's a limiting belief. So people take it on sometimes as like a diagnosis or an
And their
identity.
identity. Yeah.
And that's again, like that's a feeling. I know it's labeled as a syndrome, but it's just the feeling of
Well, that's the
not having
problem.
the
It's
confidence.
it's the label of
Yeah.
it's the syndrome. So people take it as a diagnosis. We went to an event one time where they were like trying to educate people on what imposter syndrome was. And literally everyone there is like, oh, I've got that.
Hmm.
And that I'm dealing with that. And like, okay, but it's more about understanding like what it is. And I did not like that event because there was no actionable help. It
Right.
was, you have this issue, you can't do anything about it. Find a mentor.
Yeah. I mean, imposter syndrome is kind of just a label for like not having confidence and not having the experience.
In
So
what
you
you're trying to create.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you feel a little lost, you feel intimidated. Those feelings are normal, but you have to like challenge yourself and overcome those challenges
Yeah.
to get past the imposter syndrome to prove to yourself you can. And again, that is the same exact thing as proving to yourself that you can have confidence in something.
Yeah. And I find a lot of times it's about not taking action. Like
Yeah.
people who have imposter syndrome or, say they're dealing with it, they aren't usually taking clear, actionable steps toward what they say they're trying to build.
Yeah. So that's again goes back to like those goals and milestones and break it down. Like break it down into the smallest steps so that you can take action towards whatever it is
Mm,
and start working towards it. Take one small step every day or every week, whatever that looks like to you so that number 1 you're continuing to learn and you're starting to build the confidence and number 2 like you are making those milestones and you are reaching your goals.
yeah.
So over time it's like you get it, you accomplish it, and then the confidence is gonna be so much higher at the end of it, but you can't get there without taking action, and that really comes from making a plan. For whatever it is, you have to make a plan.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's really kind of at the core of it is in order to develop confidence in something, you need to have a real plan, enough of a plan to understand what you're good at, um, and where you want to, continue to improve and explore. I would also say I'm not a big fan of the double down on your strength mentality. You should find something that pushes your comfort zone and allows you to continue to develop skills. If we said that, in marketing, well, we're great at marketing, you're great at branding, I'm great at advertising, but we don't know about the accounting, or we don't know about whatever else, operations. And we would end up outsourcing all these things. And don't get me wrong, there's a time to delegate, there's a time to preserve your time, but there's also a level of you start decaying when you're not learning something new.
Yeah.
Like you've got to push yourself, you got to push your comfort zone and you develop that confidence in other ways. I think you and I today are incredibly confident business owners. We know how to build a business. We're helping people with their own operations, so be willing to push your comfort zone and also develop that real plan of like, what am I pursuing and where do I want to develop that confidence?
Yeah, the learning and the education and watching videos, reading articles, like that's part of the plan. Building the confidence, a level of that is educating yourself, is
Mm,
learning a new skill, is diving into books, is purchasing online courses. We've said it before, there is no shortage of information and education out there. So, if you need to develop your confidence in something and you are trying to further a skill, guarantee you can find something online that can
yeah.
help you learn more and it just ultimately grows your confidence in it.
Yeah. And I think kind of in the same conversation of having a real plan, we can't talk about confidence without exercise, and lifestyle. So, us having confidence in our businesses, especially at the start, we were really focused on making sure that we exercise and we're proving to ourselves what we can do physically. And I think, I've heard this and I don't think there's much better of a way to describe exercise. It's not a punishment, it's a celebration of what your body is capable of.
Mhm.
So, pushing yourself and being able to see that, like, yeah, I did finish that set, I got through that, whatever, I did that difficult exercise. That also helps you carry that confidence into your business, into your work, into your relationships, into whatever endeavors you're pursuing.
Yeah, because part of that is also, yes, to all of that, but you're also like regulating your body and taking care of your
Mm,
body, which then translates to your mind, which then helps with the thoughts and the beliefs
yeah,
and then the feeling of confidence.
yeah,
So yeah, it's truthfully all tied. And that's why I always say, like, how you show up for yourself is how you show up for anything. So, confidently showing up for yourself and prioritizing your health allows you to be confident and bring that confidence into every other area of life.
yeah. Um, I know we've talked about this previously, but there's also a level here of your support system and who's around you, who's going to support you and as the kids say these days, gas you up. So, like,
Is that what they say?
that's what they say. So, I think just to kind of one more note on that is really like I've seen people now saying like it's not realistic to cut out all negative people from your life or blah blah. I think it's that conversation again of there's energy vampires, right?
Mhm.
Like people take things from you. Um, but also being around people that make you feel good, being around people that truly lift you up and make you feel confident or encourage you and they are a solid support system. It can really be a huge benefit to you because if you're trying to work on something and you have negative people around who are like, "Are you sure you want to do that? Oh, I don't know.
They're just
That's
projecting
that's
their fear.
dangerous." Right. So if you're around people who are just projecting their fear, you're going to have a hard time developing that confidence in
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a level of like there are certain people you have the choice of who you're around, your friends and stuff, but maybe there is a family member that is a little more negative and instead of like, saying, I can't cut them out of my life, like I'm not saying that, but be aware of how much you share with those people because
Yeah.
you want the support, you want the people that are going to believe in you and if you're going to just receive the projection of fear from that person, don't share it.
Yeah.
Like not everybody needs to know everything about your life even if they are one of your, a close family member. They just don't have to know everything. So be mindful of who you share things with.
Yeah. I think, I and it's also just being mindful of how much you're affected by other people's opinions,
Yeah.
So
Again, we'll get into that in the next episode.
yeah, I
Mhm.
don't think I'm too affected by other people, especially like my family, but I think it's kind of just understanding like when you're sharing, who are you sharing with? Why are you sharing? And that gets into external validation and we'll get to that. But understanding when you share something with someone, you're including the outside energy
Yeah.
into your goal.
Yeah.
So, anything else to add?
I think that's it.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.